Welcome back to this video series on creating a Sudoku solver in Java. In this video, we will be implementing the isAllowed method, which will be our last helper method before we actually start working on our solve Sudoku method. So let's take a look at the requirements for isAllowed. So isAllowed, it says returns true if the indicated number can be placed at the indicated row and column. All right. So how do we tell if a particular number can be placed at a particular row or column? So let's say I want to know if I can put a number here. Right? Can I put a 1 here? Well, to tell if I can put a 1 here, I have to look in essentially 3 places. I have to check, is it already in that row? Is it already in that column? Or is it already in this box? If any of those 3 things is true, then isAllowed would need to be false. Okay, which means that isAllowed would be true if it's not in the row, it's not in the column, and it's not in the box. So that's going to be what we use here. So what we can say is, well, we can actually do this in one line. We can say, well, you know what, I'm gonna write the if statement and then we'll convert that to one line. So we can say, well, if it's not contained, if the number is not in the row, so I'll say if not contains in row, the row and the number, and not contains in column, the column and the number, and not contains in box, the row, the column, the number. All right, so if this statement is true, so it's not in the row, it's not in the column, and it's not in the box, then we want to return true. And otherwise, we want to return false. Now, anytime you find yourself writing code like this, where you have if this, return true, otherwise return false, you don't need an if statement. We can just return this Boolean expression. Because basically we're saying, with this if statement that was here before, we're saying if true, return true, otherwise return false, which the only other option is false, which means we can just return this statement because it's either true or false. So I'm just going to change this and say return this. And then we'll get rid of these 2 lines because they're dead code, can't get to them. And so there we go. So now let's test this. Go back to our tester here. All right, so I'll go back to my tester. And so we want to do, instead of contains in box, I'm going to say isAllowed. So in row 2, column 2, so 0, 1, 2, column 2, 0, 1, 2, is a 1 allowed? Well, a 1 is not allowed because it's right there. So I'm actually expecting this to say false. All right, so now let's say 0, let's say row 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is a 3 allowed? Well, we can see it's not, so I don't want to do a 3 there. Let's check if a 7, 8, let's say if an 8 is allowed. An 8 should be allowed. So we'll change this to true. Of course, we need to change this to isAllowed. So I'm going to compile and then run. And again, I'm expecting false, true, false, true. So that seems to be working so far. And so we have our isAllowed method, our last building block that we need for our solve Sudoku class. And so I'm going to go ahead and add commit and push. So is implement isAllowed, add push. I'll come back to our to-do list. isAllowed is implemented. And so there we go. That's it for this video. And in our next video, we will be starting to actually try to solve Sudoku. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.